Good afternoon, everyone. This is Minute here. We are going to be chatting a little bit about the new Trials of Reckoning news that we just got on the global side of War of the Visions. We will be talking a little bit about some of the changes that have been made for the global release of this content, as well as pointing out a couple of things that are relevant to folks as they look at how to get the best scores for their teams. First, we're going to talk about the bonus units because this is the most obvious change. And for someone who's a big fan of Trials of Reckoning, I was a little disappointed to see some of these updates. So, as you can see here, we have several extra large bonus units. We've got Summer Lilith, Summer Catone, Moore, and Charlotte. For large bonus units, we've got Moraga Fennis, Orwell. For medium bonus units, we've got Ildira. And for small bonus units, we've got Mariluke and Little Leela. And so we're going to take a look at the... So we're going to talk about this a little more in depth in a moment. But I want to compare that to what we've got on sort of the JP side for this. So if we go over and we look at what JP had in terms of bonus units, we'll see that they had extra large Moore, extra large Corwell, large Moraga, medium Catone, medium Ildira, medium Lucia, and small was Vistral. And so this is quite a bit of a change in terms of sort of makeup of this. And the first thing I'm going to point out that I think is really unfortunate is that Corwell has been downgraded from the JP version to just a large bonus unit on Global. And I feel like it's pretty obvious that this was done to align him with Moraga, who is the other free unit here. But it still seems pretty lame to me that they've decided to go this route, right? Corwell wasn't the greatest unit. He was at least like sort of cool looking, and I doubt too many people would have invested in him if it weren't for this Trials of Reckoning that was coming. And so the fact that he sort of got this downgrade is extremely unfortunate. So he's been downgraded, and I really don't like that. It sort of leaves it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. The fact that that has occurred. Now, the other things I want to point out here is the presence of Summer Lilith and Summer Catone. I'm less concerned about Charlotte because she hasn't come out yet, and she's going to be a really good unit when she does. But the fact that Summer Lilith and Summer Catone are on here is extremely disappointing to me. They weren't on here in JP, and I was talking with some folks about this, and I don't necessarily mind the change to the units used for the trials, right? As they came to global, right? It sort of makes things a little more interesting. It means our ideal runs and team comps aren't necessarily going to be the same as they were on the JP side. So it makes things like a little bit fresh for us to sort of figure out and game as we sort of target high scores. What I find unfortunate here is that when Gumi releases new units, I want to pull for I want to pull for them because they've given me because they've made me want to pull for the unit. I don't want to pull for a unit because I feel like I've been forced to. And in this case, right, like the fact that these units sort of came out and they were subpar, it really sort of leaves me with this feeling that Gumi basically decided, well, we'll slap them on as extra large bonus units for the Trials of Reckoning, and people will pull for that reason. And so we don't need to give them any upgraded global masteries or anything like that to account for how late they're arriving to the global version of the game. And I don't know. I just basically the only thing that's really changed for me here is I'm still not going to pull for these units, but rather than like sort of being okay with that, it just sort of leaves me a little bitter. And I'm someone who tries to stay really positive about the game in general, but given that Trials of Reckoning is some of my favorite content, and they pulled this sort of downgrading Corwell while adding Summer Lilith and Summer Cutone, who are in general more subpar units, I'm really just not a fan of that. Especially since this essentially leaves you with more Moraga, who you'll get for free, Corwell, Ildira, and they also dropped Lucia from this list, who at least, and EX or and Cutone, regular Cutone, who at least sort of gave you someone decent at the medium slot to sort of fill out your team. But if you didn't grab these limited units, if you don't pick up Charlotte, you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 units here on a 5-man team to even like really play around with. And so I really don't like what they did here. Now, diving into what does this mean in terms of actually completing the content, we're going to take a look at a couple of websites here. The first one we're going to take a look at is Ultima .jp. And Ultima is a great resource for this. They've mapped out some of the some great tips on here. You obviously have to use Google Translate to really be able to tell what's going on. We're going to take a quick look at this and talk about it some. So, they... Oh, hold on. I just love it when Chrome really bogs down on you guys. So, looking at this, we see who they have for points. And we're going to look at Phoenix Battle and who they recommend for this. So, there's a couple of interesting units I'm going to point out here. We're going to talk about Tidus here. Right? Tidus is great for this fight because he can both slow and CT down. So similar to the Unalesca trial, he can serve as sort of like a Steel of Time alternative. Given that the Phoenix boss is going to be weak to fire, this is actually going to be really nice to include him on your team for that purpose. He can also hit with a big LB chain at the end. And just by the fact that he's in the team, he's got the water mastery to boost to boost your water units as well. So that's a really sort of nice perk as an off bonus units to potentially take for the Phoenix battle. The other thing I'm gonna highlight here is Duane and Gilgamesh are both interesting potential units to take. And the reason for that is because Phoenix actually has re-raise. Right, so Phoenix Hard gives itself a first-hand re-raise, so it is recommended to have a re-raise release. If you cancel the re-raise, Phoenix will not be revived, so you can reduce the number of actions for 3 or 4 turns. So it's worth taking Duane or Gilgamesh again as a non-bonus unit here, specifically for re-raise purposes. And so for the Phoenix fights, the hard fight in general, the game actually recommends you take Corwell, Tidus, Moore, Duane, and Ildira. And this seems like a pretty good team comp, but I'm really curious to see, and I don't see the Phoenix fight changing too much to account for the new extra large units and what might be best here. I suppose it's possible that maybe you'd want to drop, like maybe dropping Duane, accepting the extra few turns of battle, and having another extra large unit would be a good fit here. But I also sort of suspect that this could end up being a bit of a wash in terms of net benefit to your total score. Now let's so now we're gonna take a look at Woad of Kelk. And for those who aren't familiar, Votive Calc has a quest section where you can look up all of the quests released in the game. If you go to the JP side, you can find all of the quests for Trials of Reckoning. And the numbers, if you look at this, you'll see hard number 1, Trials of Reckoning quest, etc. And they're all sort of named the same. And so what I found is the newer one is up top. So this one I think is going to end up being the Final Fantasy VII trial. This one here is the More trial, etc. So I've gone ahead and opened them up to take a quick look at what we're sort of looking at in terms of weaknesses makeup. You can see sort of the grid, how all the enemies are laid out when you start the fight, and then you can actually go in, you can dive into their weaknesses. So right now we're looking at the boss hard version. We see that Phoenix here is going to be weak to water and slash, as well as magic. And so it's going to be potentially really good to build some water slashing chains on him. With Tidus, potentially Ildira on Spellblade sub might be interesting. And then more as well for hitting him big on the magic side. Looks like he's weak to slow. Yeah, so that's pretty good. You can see sort of the buffs he gets here. Looks like he can stun, and he's got auto revive. But the more interesting thing for figuring out if someone like Coconut Lilith or Summer Catone or Charlotte is useful is take a look at the ads, because they're not going to be hitting on the water elements here, and so they're probably not who you want really like building your big chains on Phoenix here. You're going to want them for sort of clearing ads as you go through the different levels. So the question really becomes, are they useful for that purpose, right? And so if we look at the Phoenix fight, we see that we've got fire and earth element units, right? And so really, the ideal situation is going to be guys chaining on Phoenix and dropping the water guys chaining on Phoenix and dropping Merilith, and then someone on wind cleaning up these ads, right? If we look at the Cactuar, we see he's weak to slash and missile, so you could take just a generic slasher, like say Moraga as a bonus unit, or Summer Catone, or even Coconut Lilith, and just hit on just the weapon type. But really, you're going to want to be dropping these guys with someone like Howlett, who's going to hit on missile and on the element weakness to maximize your points. Same thing, I believe, goes for the Rundal soldiers here, right? Yep, you want wind missile for these guys. You don't even want any other type here, right? So you really need Howlett here on your team for this. If we take a look at the normal version of Phoenix, we see we've basically got the same units in here, right? So same weaknesses, etc. The Coconut Lilith, Summer Catone, Charlotte aren't really going to probably come into play too much on this fight, unless they happen to be better to swap in over someone like Duane that you might normally take for the re-raise cancel, and just like have them sort of tribute in other ways to like killing the Cactuars maybe. The Meriliths you're really going to want to hit with your water team, right? You shouldn't have too much of a trouble hitting them with Phoenix and like overkilling using more, or Ildira or someone like that. And again, you really want to be killing these guys with magic and water anyways. Going on, this is where things start to get interesting. Actually, no, they don't get too interesting here yet. We see we've got Malboros, Earth, so you're going to want the wind unit, missile, it looks like, to take on that Malboro. You're going to have these guys, which are going to be, you're going to want water slash or water magic, it looks like. So you're probably not too concerned about, you're actually probably not too concerned about chain building here either. So you probably want them over someone like Tidus for like a map like this, right? Anyone who's just going to sort of give you an extra large bonus and maybe not take too much turns. And then you can send them after these guys down here that are dark, weak to light, and magic, and slash. So maybe you have like Charlotte or like a Summer Catone attack these guys. And that could actually make potentially a big difference to your scores, right? It'll require a little playing around with to find out. But continuing on, this is where, right? So this is where I start to feel a little annoyed, right? Continuing on, okay, we got a random dark guy here, but then we got wind guys that want to get hit by missile. Or sorry, earth guys that want to get hit by wind missile. Okay. We got Lamias who want to get hit by water magic. And we've got lightning elementals, though, who want to get hit by earth slash. Okay. So these lightning elementals, you want Moraga to be wailing on these lightning elementals, it looks like. Continuing on, okay, we got green slimes now. Green slimes that are weak to wind missile. Zoos, which are weak to earth missile or earth magic. Right? There is no earth magic. So you really actually want Coconut Lilith to be shooting these zoos for you. And so that feels like a little obnoxious to me, right? Because you didn't really have a way to anticipate that. And again, she's not bringing a mastery. Like, there aren't a whole lot of reasons to pull for her outside of this specific content. And so I'm a little unhappy about that. Right. Looking in further, you've got fire elementals. You want to hit them with water slash, it looks like, or water missile. You don't really have, so water slash is probably what you'll use. Right, water slash for those balloons too. And you can sort of go through these and see what sort of stuff you want, right? And it's very heavily skewed towards wanting water or wind units for the most part, with a couple of exceptions where you want earth units, and the noticeable exception of the zoo where you really want sort of the earth missile, right? Here you're gonna be earth slash is gonna be just fine. Here you got you're gonna want earth units, water units, and then you got like the 3 random typings down here that probably aren't that much of a big deal in the grand scheme of points, right? Here you sort of got the same thing, right? You're gonna want earth. Actually, you want earth missile here, right? To take on these curls, or earth magic, right? This is going to look like another one where Coconut Lilith's going to play a big role, but you aren't really seeing a whole lot of ice as we go through here, or water, right? You got this like one mini dragon, lightning fist or missile is good against this, but like I guess you could go and just run the lightning with Charlotte, but it doesn't feel like that's going to be super necessary. Same thing here, right? You got some wind and then sort of like miscellaneous stuff, but nothing that like really screams you need Summer Catone or you need Charlotte. Outside of the fact that when you're not fighting Phoenix, you probably want a big bonus unit that isn't doing Tidus, and there aren't really a lot of options because they did things like remove Catone and remove Ildira from the bonus unit list. Sorry, not Ildira, Lucia, right? So yeah, if your goal is to basically farm Phoenix, you're probably not too concerned about the bonus units, again, unless taking another extra large bonus unit ends up being better than running Duane for the extra, or Gilgamesh for the extra turns. But if your goal is to sort of target individual high score, or guild high score, you're really probably going to want Coconut Lilith or someone else to sort of fill out those non-bonus unit slots you're running on Phoenix. And so they really put you in a bind if you weren't going for those units because you didn't think they were worth it, given the lack of global buffs and the timing of them. And so, as I said before, I try to stay positive, but I'm definitely personally myself feeling a little bummed about some of their decisions around the stuff. The removal of some of the bonus units, the downgrading of Corwell, and then the inclusion of units that a lot of people weren't feeling like were worth pulling. And now they're sort of giving us these events to be like, go ahead and spend money on these, even though they aren't all that great. If you wanna really make the most out of this content, which, as I said before, I'd rather they give me a reason to want the unit, not make me feel like I need the unit. And so, yeah, I'm just a little disappointed. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts. Please check out Ultima and VotiveCalc. Both are great resources, great websites for looking at this stuff, trying to plan ahead. And those are my thoughts on the impact of the unit changes for this Trials of Reckoning event. Have a great afternoon.